you prefer Alfonso or Al? Either one's fine. Okay, cool. Thank you. All right. Our next quick take will be with Alfonso Feria. Al served in missions in France for 20 years, but never thought of ministry serving people with disabilities. When his youngest son was diagnosed with autism at age 2 in 2014, Al and his family returned to the U.S. due to lack of educational and ministry support in France. God used his son's autism to train Al in disability ministry. In early 2023, God gave Al a new vision for disability ministry in France. Since then, Al has been back to France twice, helped lead a first-time special needs family camp in October 2023, and is scheduled to help lead a similar camp in April 2024. Yes? Okay, I'm like, it passed, so that's awesome. Okay, awesome. In this session, you will learn statistics about autism and disability in France and hear Al's fresh stories about international disability ministry development, where resources are scarce but opportunities for the church abound. Join me in welcoming Al.
Thank you. You'll probably want to be able to see the screen, so if you're over here, if you can't see it, you might want to move over, because I'm heavily dependent on my PowerPoint. And I thought it'd be on a bigger screen, so the print's small, so I'm sorry, but we'll try to get by. I'm excited to talk about this theme, disability ministry in France, a new frontier in an old country. I never really thought of disability ministry in France. I thought they were kind of opposed, and so it's been interesting the last year and a few months, all of a sudden, doing those together and seeing what God has. International ministry and disability ministry. In November of 2022, I founded a new ministry called JP's Ability Hope. JP is my 12-and-a-half-year-old in this picture. He's the chief inspiration of our ministry. He's been my introduction to disability because of his life in our family, and he's a great kid. I felt a missionary call when I was 20 at Urbana, and so this is about 7 years later. I made it to France. My first month there, I was in the Alps. I was skinny and young back then, and idealistic, and I ended up going to France the first time that August, ended up living in Paris for 19 years. So Paris was my home for a lot of my life, and it's a great city. I made all sorts of friends in ministry and just in the neighborhood in Paris during my 20 years there. Served with a number of different churches. This is a Reformed church that was there. And at the end of the time, I got to serve with Hillsong Church in Paris. That was like the coolest church, so I loved being with them. And God also brought a wife along in France and 4 kids. So we had a very full house, very full life in France, and I thought we'd be there forever. But then we were home for a summer, we thought, 10 years ago, and we knew something was different with our son. He was delayed in some areas. We ended up getting a pediatric neurologist exam for him, and in about 30 minutes, he was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder, which we didn't know what that meant, but we found out later that was a big thing, and that would change our lives forever. And so all of a sudden, we're moving back to America, kind of like refugees that year. And so we spent a year getting him into early intervention, realized he really needed to be in it long term, and that France did not have the capacity for special education. And so all of a sudden, France was closed. And if you imagine being there for the rest of your life, then all of a sudden you can't, it's quite a shock. It was to me, to my identity. But I didn't know it at the time, but it was a new door opening as well. And that door was into disability ministry. They say that when God closes a door, he opens a window, and there were a bunch of windows that opened up into disability for me during that time. And so for the last 10 years, I've been focused on learning disability ministry. Part of it's through our son, part of it's been through our church, Liquid Church in New Jersey, which is an awesome disability church, and through Johnny and Friends and Key Ministry and all sorts of groups. So it's been really cool, this event, because I get to see a lot of my friends who've helped teach me over the years. And so I created JP's Ability Hope after my son just about a year and a half ago. And then a few months later, it was really strange. I had this dream, like I was sleeping, and had a dream about going back to France. And I had ruled out France because of my son's autism. Sorry. But then God opened the door, at least to looking at it. And so I started writing people working in France just to find out if anything was happening there, because I didn't know of anything when I was there. And I got introduced to this lady virtually named Catherine Moreau. Catherine is English. She arrived in France about the same time I did. She ended up marrying a French pastor named Christian, and they had 3 kids. They have 3 kids. And one of them is named Zach, and Zach has autism. And so that was their introduction to the special needs world. And Catherine has done amazing things. She's been kind of knighted in France for her work with autism. And she's involved with a bunch of different projects happening there. So she was the best person for me to connect with. And so I did my first trip last May for 3 weeks. This is at Paris Airport. It says, "Paris loves you." And it was great to be back home in Paris and in France. I was there 3 weeks. And I was involved in an autism retreat that Catherine ran. There's a ministry called Famille Je t'aime, Family I Love You, that every May they have a 4-day retreat for families affected by autism. And that's actually Catherine's typical son next to her leading worship there. And so I met a bunch of people there. This is a young lady. She's 30. I'm older than that. So she's half American, half French, and she was diagnosed with autism as an adult. Her pastor is a friend of mine, a missionary friend, and when he heard about this retreat, the church paid for her to attend it. They kind of forced her to go because they really wanted to help her, and she went and loved it. And so that's a group somehow we hope to help work with, is adults with autism. It's actually in a couple weeks, the next retreat, the autism one in France. And then I met this team of people who work in Grenoble at a camp called Camp of the Peaks. And one of their newest workers was a disability minister in Virginia, had just finished language school, and was going to camp to develop disability ministry stuff. And so last month they had their first special needs camp, a 5-day camp. I don't know if any of you have been at Johnny and Friends camps. I've been to a boatload of them, and it was kind of that style, but it was small to start out with, but it was the first one. And so it's exciting to see these camps developing in different parts of France. I attended a concert of a Bible college I went to a long time ago in France, and one of the students there gave a testimony about her autism. So I was amazed that she was studying there and that she talked about that. So hopefully there's other students with disabilities attending Bible schools and looking into careers in ministry in France. And then there's also a cafe I discovered. This is on Champs-Élysées, where the Arc de Triomphe is, if you've ever been on that street. It's called Café Joyeux, the Joyful Cafe. And it's kind of like Biddy and Bose in the States. They're developing all over Europe these cafes that employ people with disabilities. So I was really excited to drink a coffee there and know that they're working. They're even trying to do something in New York, so they're thinking internationally. And some former neighbors of mine, they're both philosophy PhDs. They're brilliant people. They were great neighbors, but Francois has developed memory issues, and so he has challenges. He's in a special facility now, and so there's a need for helping older people with Alzheimer's and with dementia and things like that. He's still really a sweet person, but he can't live at home anymore. And so last June was the Paris month of the handicapped as well, so there's more awareness of disability. And so I came back home with all sorts of ideas and all that. And then I went back for a retreat last October. This was in Bretagne and Brittany and the western coast of France. And one of the ladies in this picture, let's see if I can do this. She's right there. She's actually from Romania originally, but she's been in France a long time, Karina. And this one camp asked her to transform one of their regular camps into a special needs camp. And so we jumped on that opportunity, and we had the first special needs camp last October. It went really well, and they asked us to do another one. So October 5th and 6th this year, we'll be doing it. I actually spoke to someone here, at a booth, and they might do that camp while they're on vacation in Europe. So it's really cool that it's repeating itself. Future projects, there's an idea share of key ministry that happens every first Monday of the month here. And 2 of my French colleagues have participated in that. We hope to start our own in France in September, a monthly idea share amongst leaders in France. I hope to develop partnerships between French churches trying to do something and American churches that want to partner with them. Eric Carter is one of the speakers here. He has a really good book on disability, and Corina wants his book translated into French, so we're looking at doing that and having more resources in French. And also having some of my French friends come to this event next year. So maybe we'll do a live follow-up of this session with some French people here, and we'll see what happens. So yeah, if you're interested in France or anything like that, my email and phone number, I'm al.feria@jpsabilityhope.com. I'd love to talk, and yeah, it'd be cool to connect more people with France. I had some good conversations already with some people here. So, voila. Thanks for accepting me for my tardiness. I did a dumb thing and left my computer in my hotel, so I was running at 3 o'clock to the hotel to get it. But thank you. God bless you.